Welcome again, everyone. Today we're going to cover how do I set up my crossovers. And before we do that, we're going to have to cover some settings that we need to put in place before we start actually taking measurements. Okay, so first of all, we need to figure out, let's go to the computer. We need to figure out what are the safe crossover points for our speakers, because we don't want to blow them, right? So we're gonna set some protection first, and by protection I mean the high pass. You know, how low are we gonna be able to play without damaging the speakers? So what I do is I go to the manufacturer's website of my speakers and see what's the specific range that they can safely play. Okay, so my tweeter is this one, is the Brax Matrix ML28 Pro, and according to the specs, technical data, here it says high pass 3000 at 12 dB, but here it says frequency response 1800. So the 1800, I'm not going to set mine up at 12 dB, so I'm going to set mine up at 24 dB. And for 24 dB, I saw it somewhere here, 1800 Hertz. Okay, so we need to set that up to protect the drivers. So my tweeter, I have it set at 2000. Let's make it 1800. This is just a file that I use for starting new tunes, which is pretty much blank. It doesn't have any EQ, doesn't have anything. Everything is muted. Okay, so let's move on to the next driver. The next driver is the ML80 Pro. This is a 3.5-inch driver, well, 3.15-inch driver. And if we go to the technical data, it says, let me see if it has like the Brax, 300 at 24 dB slope. Okay, so I think I already have it set to that. I had it to 350, so let's do 300. 24 dB, yep. The other one is 300 at 24 dB. And last but not least, we're gonna do the woofer. Technical data, and it's at the bottom, right? Okay, this one is a little bit more complicated. It says 45 for tuning frequency. No, I don't need that. So this is supposed to be in an enclosure, but okay, so frequency response 40 Hertz to 4000 Hertz. I don't think it plays down to 40 Hertz, but we're gonna set it up anyway, and that's just gonna prove a point that I want to make later. So I have already set up to 40 and 40. Okay, so I am already playing the pink noise, I think. Yeah, it is playing pink noise. Let me see if yeah, so it is playing pink noise. I have to increase the volume, but I don't want to make it too loud because I'm setting my drivers, I'm crossing them pretty low. So we're just gonna leave it like that. That's okay. And the first thing that I'm going to do, well, first of all, I'm only going to measure the left side because the camera is blocking the tweeter and the mid-range. So just the left side, which is enough to demonstrate. And I want to see what the speakers are able to play from the low point all the way up open, so I can set up my crossover points. And the way that I set up my crossover points, and you're going to see, is that there's two crossover points. The my tuning curve, what I would like my speakers to play, and the electrical, that's the acoustic crossover point, and then the electrical crossover point, which is what I set here on the DSP. And the two will not be the same. Okay, they're completely different, and you'll see why. Because, and the reason is why, you can tell your wishes to the DSP, and you know, to send the signal to the speakers. You know, I wish this speaker to play from here to here, but the speaker is going to do whatever the hell it wants to do. So you got to play with that. Okay, So let's start doing the first scans with that in mind. And we're going to do the whole left side. Okay, so let me go back to REW, and we're going to be using my latest acquisition, this Dayton Audio microphone. The IMM6C, which is very easy to set up for this kind of videos. Okay, so let's start scanning. I'm going to enable the tweeter. Okay, so we have all the scans. So what we need to do is we need to take a look at what the speakers are playing with these crossover settings. And I would like to start with the, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So it's going to be the tweeter, the mid bass, and the sub. So I go to all SPL, and just to make things easier on me, I'm going to apply some smoothing. We're not doing any tuning. This is just to make it look better. So what I would like to take a look first is the mid-range, because the mid-range is going to dictate how low should the tweeter play, or how high should the tweeter play, how low should the tweeter play, and how high should the mid bass play, right? So we're going to take a look at the mid bass, the mid range first. So I go to EQ, and I'm using a tuning curve, you know, to help me with this. And here in target settings, I'm doing the Jazzy V2. Let me see if I can switch this real quick to the oh, there it was, downloads, to the Resonix laid back, because I've been using this curve lately and I'm really enjoying it a lot. I made a few changes to it. Okay, so this is the Resonix curve, and we're looking at the mid-range. So the mid-range, let's see, it says that it plays from 300 to, what did it say it played? Let's see if it's true. So it's 300 and up. Okay, 300 and up, so it doesn't matter. Let's see what it actually plays. So it says 300. It looks like it is playing down to 300, which is amazing. That surprises me. And I wanted to play to like around, this is the mid-range. So the mid-range, so it's 300 to, let's just check to see what it plays. Say 4,000. So it's playing 300 to 4,000. So it's doing what it says it was going to do, which is surprising to me. So we got that. So 300 to 4,000, we can have the mid-range play. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I always do all the time. My driver, my mid-range, even though it says that it plays down to 300, I'm not going to play it to 300, because when I crank the system, and I usually like to listen very loud, I get some distortion. So I always like to cross it over a little bit higher to minimize distortion on the lower end of each speaker. And that goes for all the speakers. Okay, so mid-range is good. We're good to go there. Let's see what the mid-bass is playing first. And this is the first time that I'm doing my, so it says 40 to what, 4,000 I think too. Holy crap, I'll be damned. So it does play, they do play 40 to 4,000, but that's too much. I don't want that, right? So these speakers are really good. So let's take a look at the tweeter. And this is the first time, as you probably can tell, this is the first time I'm doing this with these speakers. Let's see the tweeter. Does it play? It was says what, 1800, I think, 1800 and up. We'll disable this. Yeah, so the tweeter is also playing, but that's less surprising. Okay, so 1800. So that'll leave me. So let's set the mid-range first. I want to set it comfortably, so it doesn't play anything that is too hard for it to play. Let's take a look at the mid-range again. We're going to start setting crossover points, and we're going to start testing. Okay, so even though I don't want it to play too low, so we're going to leave it at 450. I think 450 is pretty comfortable. It's playing super high. I don't need it to play that high. I think I'm going to leave it down to 3000, so my tweeter also doesn't play that low either. So 450 to 3000, and this is probably going to change later. And the tweeter, so let's make the changes on the DSP for the mid. We're going to do 450. Disable the bypass all the way up to 3000. 3000. Same thing here. 450. Disable the bypass. 3000. Okay, so let's take a look at the tweeter. So the tweeter we're going to play down to 3000 and all the way up. So EQ. See how it looks like. So 3000. Okay, so that's fine. 3000. Because I did notice on this tweeter, if I cross it too low, when I crank it, it gets a little harsh, so it distorts a little bit. So that's why I don't want to play it too low. I already know that. So let's set it to 3000. I saw something weird. Yeah, it's 3000 here. 3000. Okay, so now let's take a look at the mid bass. While my mid bass does play down to 40, what I did notice is that if I cross it over less than 80, all the rattles come out because my doors are not treated yet. I'm working on that, so I want to have to, even though I would love to cross them at 60 or 70, 60, I would love to cross them at 60. The rattles go crazy, so right now I need to work with that. So we're going to set it up to 80, so it plays comfortably, and up to meet the mid, which is 450. So that's what we're going to do. So now we change the mid bass from 80 80. Remove the bypass. I'm going to set this to 450. And this is the initial setup. It's going to require a lot more massaging based on my previous experience. 450, 450. Okay, so we have these settings done. Let's measure again to see where we are now. And I just noticed that I totally neglected my subwoofer, so let's check the subwoofer real quick to see where we are. What are my settings on the subwoofer now? Subwoofer is 20 to 75, which is kind of like the way I like it, so I'm not going to mess with this too much. Let me see where it is, the subwoofer, in reality. So does it play down to 20? It looks like it might be playing down to 20. 75. Okay, so this is a perfect example of the speaker doing whatever the hell it wants to do and not playing with us. So if I move this up to match the level, so while my subwoofer is playing down to 20, is not playing all the way up to 75, right? So that should be the actual level matching is not playing. So, but I want to leave it that way, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because you see, when I play music, you know, I have the subwoofer knob, and when I raise the level on my subwoofer, like say 10 dBs, that line, the falling, the low pass, right, it starts dropping, but when I raise the level, it meets my mid bass where it should. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna touch it. And okay, so let's take a look at the new scans to see where we are. Subwoofer I'm gonna leave. I'm going to smooth everything out, and let's see the tweeter if it does what it's supposed to be doing. So the tweeter, we said that we're going to do 3000, and this is where we fine-tune things to open. My tweeter, even though it's on axis, it just drops like this, you know, starting at like around 5K, it starts dropping. So in order for me to smooth it out, I have to follow that drop on my tuning curve, and it's gonna look weird, but it actually sounds good. So this is what I do. Instead of leaving it set to known, I set Lindquist Riley 12, which is a less steep curve, and I set it to I think 8000, and that's what matches more closely my my tweeter. So if I increase the level just to see if my tweeter is doing what it's supposed to be doing, it looks like we're getting a good match, right? So when I set my EQ, that is pretty much where I'm going to set my target, and it's very close. So it's going to be minimal EQ, and the tweeter is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it's 3000. So let's see the so the tweeter we're not going to touch anymore. Let's take a look at the mid-range. The mid-range is supposed to be playing from 450 to 450 to 3000 to meet the tweeter. Let's take a look. 450 to 3000, and everything at this point is 24 dB slope. And there we go. Here we start with the shenanigans. The mid-range doesn't want to play all the way up to 3000 when I've set it, when I've told it to play to 3000. Okay, so we're gonna have to change that. Now down to 450, let's see, down to 450, it's fine. There's no issues there. So I have to change the low pass to match my target curve. So now this is where we're getting into the issue between the electrical crossover versus the acoustical crossover. So I want my acoustical crossover to be 3000, but my electrical crossover is going to have to be different in order to meet the so 3000. So let's say 4500, because it needs quite a bit to match the tweeter. 4500, and let's scan again the mid bass. It looks like I'm not playing. So it's looking a little bit better, but let's see if it matches. Oh, is that in what? How did I do that? Did it just show up? Oh, that's new. Let me just make sure. No, it's not that one. It's the wrong one. So it's this one. So let's move it out, and let's do the EQ. See if it does what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, so we're gonna go from 450, which we know there we're fine. to 3000, and it looks a little bit better, so let's move it up. And it looks good, but we could probably benefit from the mid range to play a little higher, so let's do that. This is just tweaking. So right now it's playing to 4500, so I think 5000 should be fine. No, what is this? Left mid, so 5000. 5000, and I always do both because sometimes I forget and I have them unbalanced. Okay, so 5000, 24 dB, 0. Okay, so let's do one more scan. Let's take a look. I don't know what that is, you know, the one that shows up. So I don't need this one. I don't need this one. Do this. And this should be fine. So let's do 450 to 3000. That looks a lot better. So that looks a lot better. So it looks like we're gonna have to boost a little bit here, either lower the target curve or boost a little bit here. I'm probably gonna go with the boost, but that's besides the point right now. I think this is a good compromise. So on my Twitter, in the DSP, I have it set from 450 to 5000 electrical crossover, so the acoustical crossover can play from 450 to 3000. So we're good with the tweeter, we're good with the mid. Let's take a look at the mid bass. So the mid bass is this one. Right, so the mid bass, we said that I don't want it playing lower than 80 because that's going to kill me. Actually, the crossover, not lower than 80. So where's the crossover? 80, so it's already 80. So we can play with my crossover set at 80. I can play as slow as I can, but and I'm not gonna get any rattles because my crossover in the DSP is limiting it at 80 electrical crossover, and that's below that is when I start to rattle. So let's look at the EQ. It's this one. So we're good, and we wanted to play up to 450. So we're good. It looks like we're good. So let's bring this up to match. And one thing about my mid bass driver is that, again, you know, even though I set it to 80, so let's leave it like that. So here we might need to boost a little bit, but we're already 54, 55, which is pretty high. So this one I can drop it because I have room there, 70. So I can play down to 70. So that's gonna be my tuning curve, right? 70 to 450. And we didn't do any more adjustments. Let me take a look. Let's do final round of scans and see where we are. So let's get rid of everything else and see where we are. I don't need any of this. Okay, so let's smooth everything out a little bit. And my let me get my tuning curve just to get an idea. So which one I was using? I was using Resonix Layback. So let me import that just to take a look how much you can achieve with just the proper crossover settings. Import frequency response, Resonix Layback. I need the 0 dB. So perfect. So what I need to do now, all SPL, let's bring it up to 60, and then we can, that's too much. Okay, so if I adjust the levels at this point, if I take my tweeter and I bring it down a little bit, just to touch, if I take the mid-range and I bring it down just a little bit, so at this point we will be adjusting the levels on the DSP, right? And right, so this one we're gonna bring it down to here because we're gonna be shaving that 61.58. So it's -8, like that. And my subwoofer, I always like it bass heavy. So this is 81, 82 to 65, so about 10, 12 dBs higher than normal. That's the way I like it. So we've done only crossovers, and our response already looks great. So just doing your crossovers properly will get you a lot of the way there. From here forward, it will be just doing the EQs, level matching, make sure that your phase is set correctly. So I think as far as tuning goes, the first step after you've set up all your gear is getting the crossovers properly set up. Actually, set up your gains properly, set up your input gains properly. Once you have that, you need to have your crossovers set up correctly, and I think this is the way to do it. So with that said, thank you very much for watching. If you stuck with this video that long, you're a hero, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.